Hi, my name is Brendan Perry, and this is my multicultural book talk for one of my multicultural literacy classes at Jacksonville State University. Um, the book that I'm going to be discussing is William Steele and His Freedom Stories, both written and illustrated by Don Tate. I've included a YouTube link at the bottom that is an interactive read aloud for your students. It is well done, it is well narrated, and has beautiful illustrations for your students to see. So these are a few of my favorite pages and the cultural relevance of this story. So the story basically covers a family from the South, it doesn't say where, but a family from the South in the 1700s into the late 1800s who escaped slavery and went north. And so the father left first. His name was Levin, and then the mother, Sydney, left two sons behind in order to seek freedom for her daughters. Um, Once the mother and father reunited in the North in a free city, they ended up having 15 more children, which included William. As William grew up, he began working and realized that life, even in a free state, was not equal or fair for black people. So he began working for a abolitionist society and began reuniting families from the Underground Railroad. And actually, William's home as an adult served as a station for the Underground Railroad. And as he did that, he ran across a man named Peter. And Peter had been enslaved for 40 years in the South and had finally made it to freedom 40 years later. And I'm going to read these two pages to you because this is not only uh, textually, it describes the feeling of what William was thinking, what Peter was thinking, but also the illustrations. So if you'll look on the first page with the older black man with a straw hat in his hand, it says, William was thunderstruck. Could this man be his Peter, his long lost but never forgotten older brother? Yes, he was. But Peter was confused by William's news. Was this some kind of trick to capture and return him to the South? He needed some convincing. And then on the other page, you see a much brighter, warmer, golden tone, and it says that Peter's evidence came from a mother who looked just like him. So William, through his advocacy and through his working with the Abolitionist Society, was able to reconnect even his own family. So Peter was one of the sons that was left behind, unfortunately, by his mother when she escaped up north with his sisters. So in my classroom, how could I use this story? Well, I'm going to read you this page, and it says in 1872 he published his book, this is William, The Underground Railroad, a collection of stories of hardships and hairbreadth escapes. William Steele's records and the stories he preserved reunited families torn apart by slavery, because that's what stories can do. Protest injustice, soothe, teach, inspire, connect. Stories save lives. William's stories needed to be told, so slavery's nightmare will never happen again. And I put a paragraph here that kind of describes my intentions for this story. It says, for the majority of my second grade students, they enjoy writing fiction or narrative stories. They enjoy the imaginative part of writing. But I struggle to get them to be inspired or to enjoy expository nonfiction writing. By this passage in this story, we see that William's good record keeping and attention to detail was able to save lives and reunite families. Journal writing and other forms of expository writing are important, they're vital, and possibly even more so important than narrative writing. So, through this story, it took 16 minutes to read it. I think students will understand the importance and how vital it is that we not only write stories for fun, but we write stories to inform, we document important things that happen in our lives and things that happen in the world around us. Just a few tips of how other teachers and other grade bands might could use this story. Of course, any teacher who's teaching writing or teaching comprehension skills, you want to know author's purpose. So, what story is Don Tate, the author and illustrator, trying to convey? What purpose did William have with his writing? We know that his purpose was to reunite families that had been separated by slavery. Also, as students age and mature, it's important for them to understand race relations that have affected our country and how they continue to affect our country. And so, even though it's hard sometimes to have those difficulties brought up in the classroom, it's important to have those discussions. And of course, as the standards dictate, it's important to teach that curriculum. Also, teachers could have a discussion with diversity, and students always enjoy hard stories. They enjoy truthful stories, even about the hard truths that may be presented in different books, and even in this book. You know, this book may talk about lashing. It talks about the slave trade. It talks about the family separation. A lot of hard truths that need to be discussed, and students are able to compare and contrast the life that they live and the life that we now experience and the civil liberties that we have in the United States because of the hardships that we had in the past. And then, of course, a genre study. This book is an excellent example of historical nonfiction in a picture book form. A lot of times, historical nonfiction is in chapter books or in biographies, but of course, we see this also in picture books, and this is a good example of that. So I encourage you to read William Steele and his Freedom Stories, written and illustrated by Don Tate. Thank you.